By the 1990s, you could get just about any add-on you wanted for your personal computer, including an FM tuner. Today we're going to find out more about that with the PCFM. It's part of a new series called October Oddities right here on Vintage Geek. Just a quick reminder, if you like vintage tech, vintage computers, and special add-on cards like the ones we're looking at today, be sure to like and subscribe. It's going to help us a lot as we grow. And I also would encourage you to become a Vintage Geek member. You can do that at the website at vintagegeek.com. Back in the 1990s, the PC was becoming the standard in the workplace and in the office, and everyone wanted to be able to do things while they were working. Back then, you couldn't just sign into Spotify and start listening to your favorite tunes. You had to have some kind of way of playing music on your computer. CD-ROMs had become very popular, and of course you could play an audio CD in your machine, but a lot of people wanted to have the variety of being able to hear some of their favorite DJs from their favorite radio station. Yes, we're talking about radio today, and it is a subject that's near and dear to my heart, as in my other life I actually do own and operate radio stations. Radio was kind of a foreign concept to the PC, but manufacturers started putting out cards or add-on units that would allow you to have an FM tuner basically in your computer. And when I say in your computer, I'm using that term pretty loosely, because a lot of these devices were really just a standard FM tuner chip that was completely separate from the computer itself, and you would actually have to run the audio out of that device back into your computer sound card to be able to hear it through your normal PC speakers, or to be able to capture that audio in some way, shape, or form. But still, it was kind of a novel idea at the time, and a few different manufacturers got in on the fun. We have a couple of different versions of these cards here in the museum collection. One of them is called the PCFM, or the PCFM, because it has the exclamation point at the end of the title, which makes it more fun inherently, of course. This one's made by a company called Gemtech. Now, according to the internet, they were a company that started with wireless products back in 1988, but I have no idea if that's the same Gemtech that actually made this sound device. The logo of the company is actually kind of weird. When you look at it, the M is kind of a 3 that's turned on its side, but it looks like a really interesting device, and it captured my attention for sure when I saw this listed on eBay. There's a lot of features listed on the box. One of them is that it's a power-free FM device, so I guess it must be deriving its power from the computer itself. It's using the RS-232 port of the PC. It also looks like it comes with a really interesting piece of software to control the tuner. Now, this was designed specifically for Windows 3.1, but it does look like it will run on later versions of Windows, which is great because we actually have the Aptiva computer in the museum today, and that one does have Windows 95, an original install. The Aptiva itself is a computer worth talking about. We will be doing a video on this machine at some point, but today it's going to be handy in testing our PC sound device and seeing if we can get FM radio stations through our computer. So in order to do this, we're going to take a look at what's in the package of the PCFM, what's going to be required to set up the computer, and then we're going to give it a try and see if we can get some radio stations. Now, of course, this package was already opened, but everything should be here. First of all, we have the device itself. Looks like it just goes into a DB25 connector, which I assume we're going to need to get an adapter for because the Aptiva has a 9-pin. On the back side of this adapter, we've got an audio output that's going to loop into the computer, and we've got a port to connect an actual external antenna, which is great. That is one of the things that I thought about. How is it going to receive anything if it's a tiny device and it has no antenna to have any surface area to pick anything up with? The fact that it has an external port is going to be very helpful. It probably also means that you could connect a larger external antenna to it. Like, for example, if you had an external antenna on your house or wherever you were using your computer, you might be able to get some kind of adapter to plug it into the device. So that's pretty cool. Next up, we've got this standard cable that looks like it goes from an 1/8-inch stereo plug to what appears to be a smaller version of that. Then we have this cable here, which is actually the FM antenna. So that will just plug directly into the unit itself. Maybe we'll get some thumbtacks, put it up on the wall. I'm sure that would look a little weird in an office cubicle back in the 1990s, but you never know. And in addition to that, we've got a disc that has the PCFM software on it. I assume it may also have some kind of device driver for Windows. We'll check that out in a minute. And then we've got the owner's instruction manual, and it actually looks like we've got 2 copies of this in here, as well as the original warranty, which most certainly has expired by now. Now, it does say, please read this in large print, so it does require a 386SX or greater as far as your computer. It looks for a 16-bit sound card, Windows 3.1 or Windows 95, so it does recognize Windows 95. It requires speakers or headphones, and 1 free 25-pin RS-232 port, or in our case, a 9-pin with an adapter. Comes with a radio receiver, an FM antenna, software, and the audio cable, and indeed, we did find all of those items in the package. So I think we should be good to go here. Let's see what the manual says we have to do to set up our PCFM. Step 1. Turn off your computer. Now, since this is Windows 95, I have to shut down the computer in the proper way. I haven't seen this message in years. Yeah, the Aptiva actually does shut down physically with the Windows shutdown, so it's obviously made for it. Very cool. Probably safer to install things with the computer off, although it does look like the computer could be on. There's really nothing internal, but I'll follow the instructions. Step 2, connect the serial port. Thankfully, we've got our adapter cable we already had here at the museum. I'm gonna plug this into the device. Now, of course, we've got screws that are going both ways, so I can't really tighten this down. That's all right. Step 3, connect the antenna. And I suppose for proper reception, we should try to spread this out as much as possible. This is all pretty self-explanatory. Step 4, connect the audio cable to the audio in on your computer. So we plug this in here. That's that smaller plug that we saw earlier. Bring this around. Step 5, turn your computer on. Then install the software. And of course, this is Windows 95, so it has a little bit of a boot up process, but that's all right. The Aptiva seems to handle Windows 95 quite well. I do appreciate the original Windows 95 load screen. Ooh, and Microsoft Plus, special add-on bonus. Very nice. The Microsoft sound. Haven't heard that one for a while either. As in typical fashion with Windows 95, I'm going to go ahead and wait for the hard drive to stop spinning before I start doing something. A lot of loading going on in Windows 95 for sure. Not too bad though. All right, let's take a look. I guess it's time to see what's on this disk because as part of step 5, we have to install the software. See what's on the A drive here. Let's take a look. All right, well, here's setup. Looks pretty straightforward. During installation, setup will check the sound card's wave recording and playing functions. If the computer locks or resets, you can restart the setup program to read the error log file. Well, isn't that convenient? Got a general protection fault. I don't think it's going to matter in this case. It may be a difference between Windows 95 and Windows 3.1. We're ready to install the files. Well, I like this little picture they have. Now, in this picture, they call it the Wizard radio. There was nothing on the box that called it the Wizard. I actually think that's kind of cool. If you want setup to install the drivers, click the install button. If you would like to exit setup without installing, press cancel. This is also funny to me that it says to proceed, click install, and the only options are back, next, and cancel. So, doing a great job here with the installer, guys. Make sure you have correctly plugged the Wizard radio adapter to any RS-232C ports. Second, make sure you have correctly connected RCA jack on the Wizard radio adapter to any sound card's line in or mic in. This is definitely a company not based in the US. The text on these prompts is great. Setup program will automatically check where the Wizard radio adapter installed? Question? Great. Opening COM 1. Oh, cool. All right, Gemtech printer sharer driver can be copied to the location below. Why would we need a printer? You know what, I'm just gonna go with it. Oh, can't create the directory. Guess we're not gonna do that. Let's see, printer. Okay, I think we already did this, but well, it's always nice to have a progress bar, so I'll give them some credit for that. Congratulations! Gemtech printer sharer drivers have been successfully installed into the startup group. Again, I have no idea what this has to do with the printer, but, you know. We're going to bring up a README file. Fantastic. Oh, FM radio troubleshooting guide. Well, we're only going to open this if we need it. I'm going to assume that everything's going to work perfectly. Well, here's our icon for the program, PCFM radio. It should be in the start menu, so let's just double check that. PCFM radio. Nice. All right. Oh, application error, exception EGP fault, something in the sound driver. But I do hear static. All wave devices that can record files in this format are in use. Okay. All right, well, we've got a display here. We've got the wave radio going. Looks like it's on 100.1, which is not a used frequency here where we live. All right, so this is kind of a cool little interface. We've got our FM display over here that shows the frequency. Looks like there's 10 different presets that you can set up, similar to your car radio. That's cool. I see the store and edit functions here. We've got a power button over here on the right. So I guess if we just turn it off, we'll lose our static sound, which is cool. We'll turn it back on. And yeah, it's upset with me about the devices not being available for recording, but again, this may just be a driver issue. All right, so I assume that we can tune or scan. So let's try scanning first to see what it can pick up by default. Now, I do have a good handle on the radio dial here in Knoxville, so I can tell you which station it's probably going to stop on. I'm guessing the first one will be 97.5, as it's the strongest signal in town, but let's find out. Car not stopping anywhere. Oh, there it is, although it stopped at 97.6, which is a little bit weird. Let's see if we can manually tune that to 97.5. Okay. It's got a stereo pilot. It gives you an indicator here. That's pretty neat. I don't know about this VU meter thing in the bottom right-hand corner. It doesn't seem to be showing anything with the actual radio itself, although I can hear the audio. Looks like this is already stored as a preset, so I don't really need to store it again. Oh, this must be for the recorder. So if you were going to actually record the radio, it would give you a level indication here, which I don't think we can do because of that sound driver problem. Yeah, all wave devices are in use. That's fine. All right, so 97.5 is a very easy station to pick up here. It's 100,000 watts on a ridge that's literally less than a mile from our location. So you can basically pick up this station in your teeth. It's not super impressive that it's picking this one up. Let's try something a little bit more challenging. How about a high power station that's kind of out of town, but still, has plenty of power? Let's see if we can, doesn't look like there's a manual tune option, although you can, oh, that's kind of cool. You can slide it across this way. Let's try that. 035.
You can just use ZipRecruiter.
And of course it's playing a ZipRecruiter ad. Seems to be all that's on the radio these days. Now we're not getting a stereo pilot on 103.5, so this must be because it's a little bit further out of town even though it's high power. It's got a little bit of static and the stereo pilot's kind of coming and going. Now let's try something really challenging. Let's try 105.1, which is a distant signal, low power. Okay, slider is the way to go. The tune buttons are very slow to react. We're not getting anything on this particular frequency other than static, which again makes sense. I wouldn't expect this device to have very high sensitivity. It's in a very small form factor package. And of course we're using the antenna that came with it, which is very, very simple inside this building. But honestly, it's kind of an impressive arrangement for an early piece of software, an early device that has a tuner in it. I do like the control mechanism here. Certainly this would be useful if you wanted to record something off the radio and we didn't have this sound driver issue. You could be able to record directly off air, which is pretty cool. And I assume that you could use that if you had an audio editor program as well. It's more advanced than what's in this software. You could probably use that to capture too. One last combination we could try is to try to pick up a low power FM translator that's still close by. See how it does with that. I think this one's like 100 watts in town. This is at 97.1. So this actually tests two things, how its sensitivity is and how its selectivity is. And what I mean is, how good is it at getting rid of adjacent channels or things that are nearby for a lower power signal? If we go to 97.1, it is not doing that effectively either. So it doesn't really have the sensitivity or the selectivity from what I can tell. But again, this is an early tuner device for your computer, and it's probably really intended for signals that are very strong in your particular city that you live in. But I do like what they've done with the interface here. It's cool. You can save presets. Let's see what that's like. We'll store this preset. Okay, you can pick the channel number. Oh, you can put a name in. I think this one is TLT, and we'll hit OK. Oh, cool. So it actually changes the text of the preset, so you don't just have to have the frequency identifier. That's pretty neat. And the scan feature seems to work to find the strong signals on the dial. I believe this is NPR, which has a very strong signal here as well. It's doing its job, and I can see this being useful in the workplace in the 90s. Listen to your favorite station, maybe your favorite DJs or show while you're doing work. Of course, today we have tons of different options for that, but for its time, I can see that this could be pretty useful. And I'm glad that this all works, and we have a computer this will run on here at the Vintage Geek Museum. Thanks for joining us as we covered the PCFM right here on Vintage Geek. If you're interested in this kind of thing, we also have another one of these devices that we may cover in a future video. Please sound off in the comments below if that's something you'd like to see. Want to remind you, if you like vintage tech and vintage computers and peripherals like what we're covering today, be sure to like and subscribe and consider becoming a Vintage Geek member. You can do that on our website at vintagegeek.com. As a member, you have access to special perks like extra video content, code snippets, and admission discounts here at the museum. Until next time, I'm Aaron, and this has been Vintage Geek. I don't know who's on 89.1, but that one's very strong. And of course, we're using the antenna that came with it.
Okay. I'm going to stabilize it.